When that battle was going down, when it took place, was there anything that he said that made you go, woo? He hit me hard with that.
Nah, because I was in it. So I wasn't viewing it from a statistical point of view. I was like, you know, I felt there was things that was said that was over the line that made me say things that was over the line.
Yo, listen.
Was it a sad day in Rockefeller?
Yo, listen.
Let's just be clear. I just feel like y'all niggas are too rich to care, but I'm feeling like...
Nah.
Niggas scared?
Niggas scared, B. Niggas scared. It was silent in baseline. That shit was like a body dropped in baseline. It was like, yo, we gotta get our gun and kill a nigga. What the fuck?
It's been over 20 years since Nas released his legendary diss track Ether, a response record to Jay-Z's Takeover, which came out in the same year, 2001. Both of these songs are widely regarded as hip-hop classics and mark the climax of their iconic feud that started in the late 90s. You can check out my beef analysis video for an in-depth historic breakdown. But the main topic of this video is the original version of Ether, the first version that never got released. The one you hear on the Stillmatic album is actually the second version, almost like an entirely different song with a different beat and completely different verses. The beat that was used on the album was actually produced by Ron Browse and originally not intended for the song Ether. It was just a random beat he got from his manager at the time, Steve Stout. Nas didn't like it at first and pushed it to the side like other beats that didn't make it on the album.
That was the first beat that I had that I gave Nas, not for Ether. And Nas, he didn't like the shit. And I was nervous. I thought Nas's career was over.
He actually picked a different beat for the first version of Ether, which was produced by Swizz Beatz. According to rapper and producer Large Professor, ex-member of the group Main Source, the song was faster, noisier, and the lyrics were more offensive than the final version on the album. Now, just like the album version, it had 3 verses on it. Unfortunately, only 2 of them got leaked so far. We only know about 1 bar from the 3rd verse, which referenced the plane crash that caused the death of the singer Aaliyah.
As a matter of fact, the first beat he really wrote to was a Swizz Beatz beat. It was a lot more energy and a lot more hype.
I'm sure you heard of, you know what I'm saying, the Dame Dash plane crash and all that, the shit with the rhymes and shit.
No,
it's like,
actually.
Sorry Aaliyah, I'm sorry it was you in the plane crash. It should have been Jay and Dame Dash. He was getting at him. That was the original lyrics. Yo, you know, it should have been you in the plane crash. You know all of that. When the original, those was the original lyrics.
You said that Nas watered down his lyrics for the, I guess, the final beat there because I guess he took out the Aaliyah.
Yeah, for sure.
The 3rd verse on the album version was actually supposed to be Jay-Z's Burial. It was twice as long as the first 2 verses, more personal and more vicious. Jay kinda did the same on the Takeover. The 3rd verse was added later on and is actually longer than the previous 2 verses. So Nas might have tried to mimic that song structure. But Columbia Records was seemingly unhappy with his lyrics on the original version and made him re-edit the vocals up to 3 times. He apparently had to take out a few lines as they were too controversial. So in the end he decided to scrap the whole song and start from scratch. They unfortunately have destroyed the original masters, which means the original version will most likely never come out. The only traces left are the first 2 original verses in text form, which I will now talk about in detail. First verse. So you call yourself a god MC, Jehovah. Drunk the glass of blasphemy and forgot to pray over. Your game's over. Crossed the warpath of a brave soldier. You're a makeover. My protege trying to take over. Nas starts off by directly responding to the opening verse of the Takeover. He mimics Jay's cadence and rhyme pattern to accuse him of blasphemy.
The takeover, the break's over, nigga. God MC, me, Jehovah.
Jay always calls himself Hove, Hover, or Jehovah, which is a reference to the proper name of the God of Israel in the Old Testament. Nas calls him out for being a delusional, megalomaniacal, and blasphemous backstabber that crossed the line by dissing his teacher. He continues by comparing Jay to an ungrateful sheep under his control that receives food and shelter but never respect. I was the shepherd that led you, but you bit the hand that fed you. Mad 'cause since I met you, I never did respect you. This is also a response to Jay calling himself the King of New York after Biggie passed in '97. Jay made an entire song for that called The City Is Mine.
And I let the world world know that the city is mine. What?
Nas could never respect him for that, as Jay was a nobody when Biggie was around, basically just Biggie's sidekick. And after Big passed, Jay all of a sudden said he's better than him, which Nas addressed on the album version of Ether.
First, Biggie's your man, then you got the nerve to say that you better than Big, dick sucking lips.
Nas was actually the one who was going toe-to-toe for the King of New York title back when Big was alive. On his song The Message, he said,
Hey, let me let y'all niggas know one thing. There's one life, one love, so there can only be one king.
Biggie and Nas actually traded blows at one point, with subliminal disses in 96 and 97. The lyrical feud was about to reach its climax, but came to an end when Big passed.
Y'all know about my Biggie walls. Who you thought kicking the door was for? Y'all still tripping off the jigger shit.
I will create a separate video for that in the future. He actually addressed their past relationship on a tribute song called We Will Survive.
It used to be fun, making records to see your response, but now competition is none, now that you're gone.
Now competition is none, now that you're gone.
And I let the world know that the city is mine.
The whole city is mine, pretty as dawn. These niggas is wrong, using your name in vain, and they claim to be New York's king. It ain't about that.
The King of New York thing, is that thing that started rap.
And as hard as it seems, you know I fathered your dreams. The teacher-student, father-son metaphors are actually used quite frequently throughout the verses.
Came in with my style, so I fathered you.
You as a groupie, always begging to be a part of my team.
Smiling in my face, glad to break bread with the guard. Wearing jazz chains, no text, no cash, no cars. Fame went to their head, so now it's fuck guys. Yesterday you begged for a deal, today you tough guys. With a rapper who wanted me on his songs, he used to say Jay wanted my spot. I laughed, stayed home, never hung a lot.
Another case of a boy and his teacher. I was the first to poison your speakers.
I am the truest, name a rapper that I ain't influenced.
He was definitely a big influence to Jay, at least early on. On the second version of Ether, he raps,
In 88, you was getting chased to your building, calling my crib, and I ain't even give you my numbers.
So they both have quite a bit of history together, if those lines are actually true. Nas claims that he basically taught him how to rap, with Jay being a fanboy that studied every move and idolized him to the point that he was appearing in his dreams. Jay actually sampled Nas's The World Is Yours on his song Dead Presidents, and even asked him for features early on in his career.
I'm out for president. You show off, I count off when you sample my voice.
So yeah, I sampled your voice, you was using it wrong. You made it a hot line, I made it a hot song.
Wanted to be on every last one of my classics.
So kill that noise that you're preaching, I understand. All your plans underhand. Aired threats of you pulling my card next Summer Jam. These lines are actually a direct response to the last lines of Jay-Z's third verse on the Takeover.
Your niggas gonna learn to respect the king. Don't be the next get tested on that Summer Jam screen.
On the 2001 Summer Jam, Jay-Z debuted the first two verses of the Takeover, and used a big screen to reveal shameful pictures of Mobb Deep's prodigy. Jay was basically telling Nas to keep his mouth shut and to not oppose him, or else he would expose him on that Summer Jam screen to destroy his reputation and his whole career. And in the following lines, he actually gave a hint on what he's planning to expose.
Because you know who, yeah, you know what, well, you know who. Yeah, just keep that between me and you.
Translation: Jay had sex with Nas's baby mama Carmen, who had now a child with both, Nas and Jay. He basically used the same strategy Tupac used against his homie Biggie Smalls. Jay actually wanted to help Biggie to get back at Pac, but was surprised how effective his strategy was.
Even I was like, yo, let's go. Do something.
Big was like, yo, if anyone of y'all do response records, I'm not messing with you no more. Do not do that. That's not what we do.
He was like, nah, I know where this is going. Not gonna feed into that energy. That's not the sort of energy that I want.
How do you respond to that? Because no matter what you say, that's a hard line.
Not very many people come back after that. The Takeovers, that was like the figure 4 leg lock. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't get out of that.
So I'm pretty sure Jay took notes when Biggie got dissed, and applied the same formula on Nas later on. He was threatening Nas that he would show some private pictures of Carmen on the next Summer Jam. But Jay didn't expect that Nas would respond so quickly, so he couldn't wait until the next Summer Jam to respond, cause everybody was taking Nas' side and declaring him the winner of the battle. So he did a freestyle called Super Ugly the following week, December 11th, 2001. And the third verse was supposed to be Nas's burial with some of the nastiest lines in history.
Me and the boy AI got more in common than just ballin' and rhyming. Get it? More in common.
He is using and at the same time explaining a double entendre to say that him and Allen Iverson had sex with Nas's baby mama Carmen. The affair was alleged to have gone for 5 years without Nas knowing.
I came in your Billy back seat, skeeted in your Jeep, left condoms on your baby seat.
Jay continues with his harsh and disgusting explanations by adding that he had sex with her in Nas's '98 Bentley Jeep, which Nas mentioned in numerous songs. He even left condoms on his baby seats. I mean, you couldn't say anything more disgusting and distasteful than that.
And since you infatuated with saying that gay shit, guess you was kissing my dick when you was kissing that bitch.
Jay was also hinting everything that happened between him and Carmen in the song and music video called Is That Your Chick? To strategically bait and humiliate Nas.
It's no respect at all. You better check her, dog. She keep begging me to hit it raw. She got my kids and say it was yours.
She hit the streets, later on she hitting the sheets with a rapper who wanted me on his song, stinking he's strong.
Hello. Is this your chick? Does she suffer from ice-itis?
Her weakness was shine, yo, but that's her. I ain't mad, baby, it made me stronger.
Gotta hurt I'm your baby mama's favorite rapper.
Let me make this clear, Hover. You had my leftovers. She told me your little problem of the day when you slept over. He avoided mentioning her on the final version of the song to not confirm the affair. But in this verse, it seems like he's addressing it directly and trying to flip it. By leftovers, he of course means Carmen, his baby mama. Nas is saying that he had her first and that he already tossed her to the side to move on with his life. Jay, quote unquote, only got the leftovers. And then he adds a comment about Jay's problem in the bedroom, which is kinda weird to talk about as a man. Especially when your cheating baby mama is telling you that to make you feel less jealous and to mitigate the guilt. Too much information, don't wanna hear it. But speaking of plans for the Summer Jam, Nas actually planned to hang a doll that looked like Jay-Z during the Summer Jam 2002, while rapping Ether to harm him the way Jay did Mobb Deep.
I had a big show put together. I was going to actually crucify Jay at Hot 97 show.
But Hot 97 didn't allow it, as they were picking Jay-Z's side in the beef. Jay-Z could do whatever he wanted on the Summer Jam, and the Takeover got more airplay than Ether on that radio station.
You know what I'm saying? You're gonna tell Nas, me, myself, what I cannot do on a Summer Jam stage when it's been done. The same acts have been done.
4 or 5 years in a row.
4 or 5 years in a row, and last year it happened to be the diss was toward me by Jay, and he was all high and mighty.
Right.
Then I dropped the Ether napalm bomb, and the whole crew is running like roaches, and now you got this station over there crying because he lost. Unanimous decision, he lost. And they played his records like he was dead, like it was a Jay-Z memorial.
Nas concludes his verse with a few filler bars that sound similar to what he rapped on the album version of Ether. Bitch, you phony, I'm coming to collect the debt from the years that you owe me. So what, you capitalized, only cause I allowed. I'm taking aim at your dome and reclaiming my throne.
Burner at the side of your dome, come out of my throne, I got this, locked since 9-1.
Who said that I ain't still nasty? That who said that I ain't still nasty is also a response to one of Jay-Z's lines.
Went from nasty Nas to Esco's trash. Had a spark when you started, but now you're just garbage.
So Nas is saying that he still got it after failing to drop an album on the level of Illmatic, back when he was Nasty Nas. That's why he named his album Stillmatic. Overall, it was a great verse in my opinion. The first verse of the final version wasn't as personal. It was mainly braggadocious shit talk. But I like the overall structure of that verse more. The unreleased version feels unfinished, kind of like a collection of thoughts. It's less coherent. I don't think it would sound that great, to be honest, just flow and cadence wise. But I do like the lines on here, the one about Jehovah and blasphemy. My protege trying to take over, you know that I fathered your dreams, you was a groupie always begging to be a part of my team. Another case of a boy and his teacher, I was the first to poison your speakers. Love those lines. But I think it was the right decision to leave out the lines about Carmen and Jay-Z's little problem in the bedroom. Just a weird thing to say as a man. But anyway, let's continue with the second verse that was leaked. How you plan on facing the half man, half amazing? Don't need a fam, Nas is a one-man invasion. Nas doesn't need anybody's help in a lyrical war. He is skilled enough to lyrically defend himself against multiple people at once. In contrast to Jay, who sent Memphis Bleak to metaphorically throw stones at Nas with subliminal disses such as
Your lifestyle's written, so who you supposed to be? Play your position. Oh, you didn't. Wanna know whose life was written, the life I'm living, the ice, the women.
Nas can handle the whole Rockefeller army on his own, that's what he's trying to say. Beanie Siegel, Memphis Bleak, Freeway, Amil, Sauce Money, no matter who it is. Cameron, who also dissed Nas at one point by the way. But that beef deserves its own video. Claim you hot, but you flop with your rock familiar. Cause real recognize real, and you're not familiar. Nice wordplay, but it's not doing much damage, knowing that they all went platinum and gold. I wouldn't call it a flop to be honest, but the sales for Jay at least did go down after Volume 2 Hard Knock Life, that's for sure. Still multi-platinum though. But the next lines should have definitely stayed in the song in my opinion. Call yourself a gangster, but you were begging for pardon that night in Carbon when Terror Squad flipped on your squadron. Tried to front on their checks till Pun put a gun to your chest. Nas was addressing two things in those lines. The night in Carbon and another incident where Big Pun and Fat Joe paid Jay a visit in Chicago. I will do a separate video where I break this down in detail, but to sum it up, the Rockefeller clique basically got into a club fight with the Terror Squad after one of the TS members got hit with a bottle, and Jay-Z's clique got chased out of the club after a massive brawl. Jay-Z was supposed to perform there initially for $15K, but didn't. He just showed up and left before the fight broke out. Sauce Money, who's one of Jay-Z's artists, made a record called Middle Finger You, which sounded like a diss record against Big Pun and Fat Joe, and they took offense to that. Fast forward to the meeting with Jay, Fat Joe and Big Pun. There are multiple stories floating around, and everybody's telling it differently. In one of the stories that is in line with what Nas said on Ether, Joe and Pun didn't get the promised money or only a fraction of it for their club performance, cause Jay didn't perform and the fight ruined the show. They got mad at Jay for that and expected him to pay. But it could have also been about the Sauce Money diss or the fight that broke out, or just Pun and Joe feeling disrespected by Jay. Multiple stories, they all contradict each other. But they all agree with Jay panicking, basically screaming for help and getting chased around the couch by Pun. The door was blocked, so his bodyguards couldn't get in. And there is more to it. I will cover everything in an upcoming video.
I love Brooklyn is hardcore. Except for Jay-Z. Brooklyn is hardcore.
I know we got surrounded by 90 of them the other day.
Yeah. I'll battle you all.
The story of Pun putting a gun to Jay-Z's chest was never denied by Fat Joe though. He was asked in an interview about those lines before Ether came out. He could have denied the involvement of guns like others did decades later, but he just wanted Jay to tell the story himself. Joe didn't care about Nas's beef with Jay, he was taking Nas's side but didn't want any more drama with Rockefeller. He actually squashed the beef with Jay a day before the final version of Ether came out. By that time, those lines were already removed and Nas redid the song from scratch. Fat Joe was surprised when Ether finally came out, so I don't know if he had anything to do with the line getting removed from the final version of the song. It would have been a great addition to the song in my opinion. But I guess they had to take it out due to either complaints by the label or Nas not wanting to reignite the beef between Fat Joe and Jay-Z. Pun was already dead at the time those lines were recorded. Anyway, back to the second verse. Nas is referencing Jay-Z's famous line from the song Where I'm From.
Who's the best MCs? Biggie, Jay-Z, and Nas.
You said it yourself, dog, Nas is one of the best. He has a line similar to this on the final version of Ether.
Who's the best? Pac, Nas, and Big. Ain't no best.
Basically leaving out Jay from that list and adding Pac, who had a beef with Jay in 1996. Nas actually sampled a song called Friends by Tupac in the intro.
Understand this, ain't no nigga like me. Fuck Jay-Z, he broke and I smoke daily. Fuck Jay-Z.
You been on my dick, nigga. You love my style, nigga.
Fuck Jay-Z.
Make sure to check out my beef analysis video for Pac and Jay. Most people don't even know that they were dissing each other back in the day. The next few lines are filler. Don't need to search for some dirt to expose you. I'll leave it up to the flow. Dispose you when I oppose you. This is it, I'm calling you. Come out and play like warriors.
Warriors, come out to play.
I'm glad those lines were excluded. They don't serve any purpose in my opinion. And the rhymes are pretty basic. Studied my blueprint, then pieced together your formula.
Nas designed your blueprint, who you kidding?
Using Jay-Z's album title to say that he's biting a style. Nas actually improved this line in the second version of this song.
This for Dolo and his manuscript just sounds stupid when KRS already made an album called Blueprint.
He's referencing KRS-One's album title, which Jay copied. It's not just an empty accusation of somebody biting someone else's style. But here we actually have some evidence that Jay is copying someone else's work. KRS-One's album Ghetto Music, The Blueprint of Hip Hop went gold, some people consider it a classic. And Jay is a big fan of Chris, so it's almost impossible for him to not know one of his most essential albums. Guess the knowledge I speak too deep to follow, that's why your stomach too weak to swallow, the real truth that Nas is the greatest of all timers. This line is actually a response to
Your shit is garbage, but you trying to kick knowledge.
Nah, I'm trying to kick the shit you need to learn though. That ether, that shit that make your soul burn slow.
Both are trying to convince their opponent that they're the best, but in Nas's case it's kind of contradictory, if you think about it. On the album version of Ether he said, "Who's the best? Park Nas and Big, ain't no best." And now he's saying that he's the best. He's way more humble on the album version, which worked in his favor as he could pay homage to Tupac and Biggie to get the support from their fan bases, and to basically call him out for biting Biggie's lines and calling himself better than Big after he passed.
How much of Biggie's rhymes is gonna come out your fat lips?
It was executed perfectly. Nas came off as a humble rapper that everybody underestimated, while Jay looked like a megalomaniacal buffoon who thinks he's untouchable. But Nas could have shot himself in the foot with the last line of verse 2. Fuck skeletons, keep only weaponry in my closets. Having skeletons in the closet means hiding an embarrassing or discreditable fact from the public. So Nas is basically denying that there is something embarrassing that could be used against him. That being Jay-Z's affair with the mother of Nas's daughter, Destiny. Him staining Nas's Jeep with body fluids and leaving condoms in the baby seat. Nas actually removed all the references to Common on the final version of the song, so it was indeed something embarrassing that he was trying to hide. And it was a smart decision in my opinion. I mean, addressing the affair is what Jay wants Nas to do. It would validate some of Jay-Z's hardest punches and accusations. Rap is the genre or sport of macho men, if you think about it. You can't show any weaknesses in a battle, or else you will make yourself vulnerable and lose. I mean, what's the point of admitting that the affair took place and everything he said is true, and then saying, I have nothing embarrassing to hide? You are contradicting yourself and making it easier for him. Having a kid with a woman like that, Jay getting to do whatever he wants with the mother of his child behind his back for over 5 years, doing it everywhere, even in Nas's own car. Jay-Z was just a disgusting human being back then. But anything goes in a battle, as you know. Nobody has to obey any rules. Anyway, those were the 2 leaked verses. The third one unfortunately hasn't leaked yet. It probably won't come out anytime soon. At one point they decided to scrap the whole song, threw the beat and the vocals in the trash, and started from scratch using the beat that Nas's manager Steve Stout gave him months ago.
So we're not working on this shit together, and like, he calls me in, the album is about to go to mastering, and I go to the studio, and he plays me Ether, and he uses that beat. And I'm listening to this shit, and I'm like, I take off my, we staying here all night.
Right.
We gotta fix this. This is a mess.
Oh.
This is a mess.
Wow.
If this shit comes out, your career is over. But there was a different version of it with the same beat that was terrible.
At this point, Nas had 3 new verses similar to the ones you hear in the final product, but Steve Stout said it was terrible and that Nas's career would have ended if it ever got released in that form. So they re-edited the song again for one last time and ended up with the version we all know and love.